What's up, YouTube? What's going on? What's cracking? How are you guys doing? I'm working hard over here. Third video in less than a day. I'm working hard. Had to do some rearranging. Some of my files got corrupted, but I'm working hard for you. Um, I want to give a shout out to the guy that left a comment saying that all I said was lies and didn't provide any proof. Look, I never said that I'm providing proof. My job is to plant the seed. I've done research for over 25 years. I've been to these places, I've studied these things. My credentials show that. I have the knowledge behind it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you about an archaeological dig that I went to in Sicily and spend 5 hours showing you paperwork, a 5 foot tibia that I saw, and go through all of that. My job is to plant the seed for you to do the research. I've done the research. I'm trying to expose this to you all so you do the research. You have the internet, you have 2 feet, you have a mind. Do your own research. I did it because I was curious and because I wanted to know the truth. This was way before the internet existed. I was doing this. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to prove a point. And I did say if I say that I know something is fact, I'll say that it's fact. But if I don't know that it's fact, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, oh, I know this is true. But I will put it out there and say, hey, what is this? I don't know about it. Do you know about it? Let's come together as a community and collaborate. Let's bring all the information that we have. You probably have information that I don't have. I'm interested in certain topics. I want to know the truth, and I'm sure anybody watching my content wants to know the truth. So, any bit of truth that I can bring to that, I will. But I'm not going to sit here and spend 5 hours or even 2 hours or 1 hour on one topic trying to show you paperwork and photos and, all of these things. You have no idea how much time I've spent traveling the world looking at these things. I've been 30 countries looking at this stuff, you know, trying to find out the truth for myself. This was before YouTube, before the internet, before any of this, just my personal curiosity because I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to know about the world I was living in and what's going on within it and how to stay away from all of the bad stuff and what they're trying to do to us as a population because 1% of the world has all of the money, controls everything, and the other 99% of us are, basically the sacrificial lambs. They can do whatever they want, and we pay the price for it. So that's why I do it. So I never said that everything I say is true. I said if I say something's fact, it's because I have done my research and I do know that it's fact. You don't have to believe that it's fact. I'm not expecting you to. I expect you to do your research or don't. Either way. But if I say something like, yeah, I've studied this, I've researched this, because I am an expert in many fields. But the ones that I'm talking about here, I'm not an expert in these fields. But I have done a lot of research in it. And so when I'm talking about this, I'm already doing my research. I've done tons of research, but I want you to do your research as well because the only way that we can learn about this is everybody's in different parts of the world. We have different perspectives. We come together with our little bits and pieces of information that are factual and we learn from each other. That's how we grow this community. That's my entire point. So if you don't want to do your research, that's on you. I'm just trying to plant the seed so you understand that, hey, this is out there. I've worked for NASA, I've worked for Lockheed, I've worked for Northrop Grumman. You know, I've been on black projects. I've worked for Homeland Security. I've done a lot of stuff. And when I was working for them, my eyes weren't as open as they are now. You know, they were, I would say, halfway open, but I was more focused on my work at the time. And now that I see things going on, you know, I look back on it and I'm like, hey, you know, this was kind of sus. You know, why was this like this? And I understand compartmentalization. I understand black projects. I understand how they do things and why they do it. But nobody's going to have the full picture. You know, nobody is. Even at the tippy top of everything, that person doesn't have the full picture. Not even half of the picture. They never do, because why would they? They give you exactly what you need to do the job you're hired to do. That's it. And so when we can come together and be like, hey, I did this on this project and it was over here at the same time when you were doing this over there. So maybe these are connected. Did you have this? Because we had that. You know, we communicate. That's the whole point of all of this. I just wanted to get that out there. So I wanted to give a shout out to that guy who said that, you know, all I did is lie and provided no factual proof. I'm not spending hours on one topic, on one video, just to show you. And even if I did do all of that, you still wouldn't believe. And I'm not trying to make you believe. Like I said, I'm here to plant the seed so you can understand that this world is so much more beautiful than you understand. There is so much more to this existence than most people understand. But there's also so horrible things going on within our world. And my plan is to keep me, my family safe, my loved ones, and I want to implore you to do the same. I will give you tips on how I do that, the ways I do that, what I use. You know, I don't make any money off of this. I'm not sponsored off of any of this, but I'm trying to keep my loved ones safe, my family safe, and I would expect that you want to do the same. So that's why I put this out there in the way that I do. You don't have to believe it. That's fine. You know, it's not going to bother me. The ones that do want to learn, do want to listen, you know, I have a lot to offer, and a lot of other people have a lot to offer. And when we come together as a community, you know, we can do a lot of good for each other, for one another, for our families, for our loved ones. That's the entire point. So, just wanted to get that out there. Again, don't believe anything that I say. Do not. Do your research. Do your research. If I'm talking about something, go look it up. You have access to things that I did not have access to when I was younger. So do your research. Do the proper research. Do the correct research. Like, actually research it. Don't go watch 2 or 3 YouTube videos and say, oh, yeah, I'm an expert at this now. No, it takes years. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes understanding, you know, comprehension. You have to understand this. It takes a lot to understand it. And it took me a lot. It took me years. Years. I'm talking from the time that before I was a teenager until now, you know, all of that, that accumulation of knowledge that I've gathered has brought me to a place to where I understand certain things, and the jobs that I've worked, the security clearances that I've held, and the things that I've done. All of these are my experiences. You know, I'm not talking about anyone else's experiences. These are mine. But all of these things have brought me to a place to where I can say, yeah, you know, this is BS, or yeah, they're actually doing this, or I have no idea what that is. Let's look into it. Who's with me? Somebody help me find out. Maybe I can't find out. Maybe somebody has access to find out. You know, has the access to be able to look into it and find out. Let's get it on. You know, that's all I'm saying. So Like I always say, don't believe anything I say. Do your own research. This is for entertainment purposes only. Don't believe anything you see on these videos. Don't believe anything that I tell you. Do your own research. And don't come to me because I'm not sitting here talking to you for 5 hours about one small topic, bringing out documents and photos and all of these things. Don't come to me about that. Do your research. I know my truth. I know the accumulation of knowledge that I have. I know what's real, what's not, what's true, what's not, and certain things I can't talk about on here, and certain things I wouldn't even if I could, because I'm not stupid. I've seen what happens to those people. But again, do your own research because at the end, we're a community and we're trying to get this knowledge out there. And my main goal is to keep my loved ones safe. I would imagine that would be your main goal too. So let's get into it. I appreciate all of you that's been with me from the get go. We're at almost 400 subs. I cannot thank you enough for sticking with me. You know, we got a lot more to go, but there's a lot of good stuff going on. So a lot of bad stuff, really bad stuff. So we're gonna get into all of it. So let's get into it.
So we all know the myth that the Bible was a book given to black people to put them in slaves spiritually, right? If you've never heard of the slave Bibles, watch this video.
Slave Bible, remarkable not for what's in it, but for what's not.
So about 90% of the Old Testament's been removed and about 50% of the New Testament's been removed. To put it another way, a normal King James Version has 1,189 chapters in it. The Slave Bible has only 232.
Missing are chapters and verses that might have encouraged uprisings. Book of Exodus, redacted. No story of Moses demanding Pharaoh, "Let my people go." Gone is Galatians, and the verse, "There is neither bond nor free, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus." And no Jeremiah, "Woe unto him that useth his neighbor's service without wages."
What they've left in are verses such as Ephesians 6:5, which is the famous verse, "Slaves, be obedient to your master."
Basically, for the people that still don't get it, they only gave us the books inside of the Bible that they wanted us to read. They didn't give the slaves the whole Bible because they didn't want them to know that they had power. They only put the certain books up in there that they could use to manipulate the slaves mentally and spiritually. Now I know how they use the Bible to enslave black people. Let me know what y'all think about these slave Bibles in the comments.
See, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I like this kid. I know the path that he's on. I understand it. I comprehend it completely. I like him, but he doesn't have the background, the knowledge. You know, he doesn't have the foundation to really understand everything that he's putting out there. So he's just putting everything out there, and some of this can be dangerous. You know, a lot of it can be dangerous. But you know, I'm not downing him. I'm not dissing him at all. You know, shout out to him being so young and starting to get into this. You know, but there's a foundation that you have to have. You have to have a certain bit of comprehension. But you have to be able to comprehend certain things to be able to put this info out there. You can't just put out everything. If you put out everything, you're gonna be like one of those magazines where it says, you know, Britney Spears was, you know, created by aliens to manipulate the mass media or something. One of those magazines, you know. So, shout out to him. I have nothing against him. I just wish he would do more research before he puts stuff out there because not everything is, not everything's what he thinks it is. That's the best way I can put it.
Out themselves. So you know how they wanted to wipe down like the indigenous people in their history?
Right.
Well, they did it before, which is why it was so natural for them to do it to the indigenous. But the Tartarians were also their own people, like their own culture.
But you're saying Putin was trying to release what's behind the ice wall.
He wants to tell us about the Tartarians. He wants to teach us about a lost history, he says. Supposedly.
Now,
I don't know if it's true or not.
with everything that I'm saying, though, they live behind the ice wall, that map. That's what's behind the other side of the ice wall,
According to Putin.
according to Putin.
But there's so much. Like, you have to read it. You have to look into it. Like, I really can't go back.
You really can't go into the website?
Oh, it's called Yandex.
Yandex. Let me see. And that's what it looks like, yeah. There you go. Yep, that's definitely it. Yandex. There y'all go. Y'all have nothing to do?
So I'm going to pause this right here. Yandex is a Russian search engine. Yandex, I haven't seen this video yet. I'm scrolling. Yandex is a Russian search engine. It's all that is. You know, different countries have different search engines. Countries, you know, the ISPs control what they can see and what they can use. So Russia being Russia, you know, they want to be exempt from the rest of the world. They don't want to be part of everything else. So yeah, they've got Google. I haven't been there in some years, so I don't know if they can locally hit Google. If they can't, they can use a proxy server or they can use a VPN and they can access it. But I would imagine they can hit Google big. But Google is not the truth. You know, don't go to Google expecting to, you know, learn the truth about things. Google is the last thing you should ever use to try to find the truth, because they've been manipulated, they've been bought, they've been bribed, they've taken sides on things, and they've manipulated their data. So go to them and say, hey, is blah 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 blah. You'll get an answer that's so far from the truth, but because you think it's Google and you think they're right, that you'll believe it. Don't believe it. Yandex is just a Russian search engine. That's all that is. It's a good search engine. I haven't found any issues with it. Like I said before, it's just a search engine.
Yes, the true end times is actually against the wealthy religious and political leaders of this world. The judgment day is actually for them, and the end times is actually interpreted as the end of the corrupt system within this wealthy group of people. For example, if we can understand that Christianity has been turned into a business, then we need to look at it from a business perspective. Basically, if I sign up to work for a business, then I am also taking the obligation of adhering to that business's policies. But anybody that is outside of that business does not have to listen to the policies of said business. This is why, as my religious label or religious title that I identify with is a Christian Gnostic, making me still a Christian, but it distinguishes me from the religion of Christianity. They want to force religion down everyone's throat and force all of their religious laws on everybody through politics and through religion, but the last thing that they want you to know about is the mentions of usury inside of the Bible. Which again, usury is the illegal action or practice of lending money at unreasonable high rates of interest, which explains our banking system, which explains our lenders, which explains everything that we are forced into, whether you identify with any of the Abrahamic religions or not. But again, illegal refers to law, and then there is also religious law. As Jewish people and Christian people are the predominant Abrahamic face of the world, they also adhere to their religious laws, therefore binding themselves to said laws. Therefore, judgment is only placed on them as they took an obligation to bind themselves to said laws. Same as when they took an obligation going into politics, going into some sort of position of power, and same thing with priests and preachers who basically bound themselves to become a religious leader. They love to cherry pick Bible verses and force it on people, but they want to completely exclude the 100+ Bible verses that strictly talks about being anti-usury. So if you go to Google, type in Bible verse about usury or Bible verse usury and read all of the Bible verses that strictly goes against the use of usury. And then go read Matthew 23 in its entirety and compare it to today. as Jesus was literally talking about the Sadducees, Pharisees, which were the religious leaders of that time period, as well as the Roman government as the political leaders of that time period. Jesus is the Lord of the broken, the poor, and the damned, not the wealthy that likes to take advantage of those people. Jesus.
So, I normally wouldn't do this, but this is Gnostic Pope on TikTok. I fuck with him. He's a traveling man. I fuck with him the long way, you know. He's on to some good stuff, but I think he's also unaware of certain things, certain realities, and he's on the right path, so there's no doubt in my mind that he will come to the truth because of the path that he's currently on. But I really love what he represents. I love what he's about. You guys can say whatever you want because he's a Mason, whatever, you know, but he's on the right path. He's gonna get there. He's not there yet. He's probably halfway there now, maybe a third of the way there, but he's definitely gonna get there. Okay, so let's skip to a part that I had already done this, but something happened to my file. It got corrupted and I couldn't fix it, so I'm having to redo it. Now, if you look at the Mayan calendars, you know, everybody knows that it says that the world was supposed to end in December 2012. And the Mayan calendar is cyclical, just like many things of our planet. They're cyclical. They go in a cycle. Ever so many years, a catastrophe happens, or this happens, or that happens. So everything is cyclical in nature, right? So I know you've seen the video of the whatever the object is sucking off the radiation from the sun. So there's also another video where this year, I'm sorry, in 2021 in December, a massive solar ray burst or a coronal mass ejection came off, and it was within 9 days of hitting Earth. It was massive, and then there's a craft that diverts it away from us, just missing us. I've got to find that video for you. But what I did want to show is that, yeah, there's people in Congress that's talking about this. There are people in Congress trying to make NASA and all of these people on these black projects, you know, secret space program, all these things. They're trying to hold them accountable and trying to find out, hey, there's tens and hundreds of trillions of dollars being put into these programs, and why are we being denied access? Because the people that are supposed to be running those programs are supposed to be elected officials. So non-elected officials are telling elected officials, people that the people elect, are telling them that they don't have access to this, that they cannot be shown this. So this goes into making people accountable, holding them accountable, because they're using money that, you know, is for the government, for these projects. And so this is just one thing I really wanted to touch on real fast.
UFO disclosure hearing today, so you guys don't have to. Here's all the most intense, crazy moments mashed up together. Here you go. Please enjoy.
You believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier. Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
Based on your experience and extensive conversations with experts, do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
And we did meet with one member of the flight crew who took the image. The image was of something that I am not able to attach to any human capability, either from the United States or from any of our adversaries. And they saw a sequence of 4 craft in a clear diamond formation for which there is a radar sequence that I alone have observed in the United States Congress. One of the pilots goes to check out that diamond formation and sees a large floating, what I can only describe as an orb, again, like I said, not of any human capability that I'm aware of. And when he approached, he said that his radar went down, he said that his FLIR system malfunctioned, and that he had to manually take this image from one of the lenses, and it was not automated in collection as you would typically see in a test mission.
Grush, as a result of your previous government work, have you met with people with direct knowledge or have direct knowledge yourself of non-human origin craft?
Yes, I personally interviewed those individuals.
Mr. Grush, as a result of your previous government work, have you met with people with direct knowledge or have direct knowledge yourself about ATs, advanced technologies that the U.S. government has?
Based on conventional advanced tech, I was briefed to the preponderance of the Defense Department's both space and aerospace compartmented programs. Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off, but how does a program like that get funded?
I will give you generalities. I can get very specific in a closed session, but misappropriation of funds and
does that mean
self-fund.
does that mean that there is money in the budget that is said to go to a program, but it doesn't, and it goes to something else?
Yes, I have specific knowledge of that. Yep.
Has the U.S. government become aware of actual evidence of extraterrestrial, otherwise unexplained forms of intelligence? And if so, when do you think this first occurred?
I like to use the term non-human. I don't like to denote origin. Keeps the aperture open, both scientifically. Right. Certainly, like I've discussed publicly previously, 1930s.
Do you have any personal knowledge of someone who's possibly been injured working on legacy UAP reverse engineering?
Yes.
Okay. How were they injured? Is it something like a radioactive type situation or something we didn't understand?
You could imagine assessing an unknown unknown. There's a lot of potentialities you can't fully prepare for.
I watched the entire UFO.
So that's David Grush. He's a whistleblower and a former intelligence officer. So just want to get that out there so you know who we're looking at and why he's at Congress having this congressional hearing.
In March 2012, astronomers reported an unusual sighting of a UFO larger than Jupiter hovering near the Sun for 24 hours straight, absorbing plasma. Despite initial skepticism, images from NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory confirmed the event. Scientists were baffled by the object's massive size and ability to withstand the intense heat and radiation of the Sun. Some speculated that it could be an alien spacecraft or a natural phenomenon yet to be discovered. What do you think? Leave a comment.
What do you guys think that is? Do you think that's a natural occurrence? I don't think there's anything natural about it. You can clearly see that it's sucking plasma off of the Sun. Now, there's been theories about craft using plasma from the Sun as a power source. There's also been theories of them using this to generate power for the power source that they have, which is usually some kind of atomic power source. From what it's just some theories that are going around. I'm not going to say whether it's true or not, but it's just some things I've heard and read about.
In March 2023, a strange and ominous sight was captured on camera by NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory. A massive object, allegedly larger than Jupiter, was seen hovering near the Sun, seemingly sucking in its plasma with an intense gravitational pull. This is not the first time that such an object has been observed. Back in 2014, researchers had reported seeing a similar object near the Sun, but its existence had been dismissed as a fluke, and it had not been seen again until now. Despite the excitement surrounding the discovery, some experts are urging caution. They warn that the object could be a natural phenomenon, and that further research is needed to confirm its true nature. What do you think? Follow for more. In March.
Look at this giant spherical UFO, sucking energy from the sun's interior. The whole process lasts for hours. And when it's over, it's quickly gone. And this is a real-time image captured by NASA's Solar Dynamics Observing Satellite back in 2012. So what exactly is this thing? If it really is some kind of giant UFO, could it pose a threat to humans? And once this video was released, it sparked a heated debate. Because in the video, this giant UFO is very obvious. If calculated according to the scale, its size even exceeds that of the Earth. Its tentacles are directly connected to the sun. As we know, solar activity has a very significant impact on life on Earth. Because solar flares and sunspot variations emit powerful short-wave radiation, can cause drastic changes in the Earth's ionosphere, not only to satellites and space stations, but also to the weather. And it's not the first time that UFOs have appeared near the sun. Many people even believe it may be related to the Dyson sphere theory. This theory is simply to build a metal sphere that can artificially encapsulate a star, and then use the fusion reaction of the star itself to power itself. In order to fully utilize the resources, currently, the Earth receives only 1 part in 2.2 billion of the sun's energy. If humans were to harness the sun's energy through the Dyson sphere, we'll directly enter the second level of civilization, and mankind's current civilization level is only 0.72. And the Dyson sphere is just a hypothesis ahead of its time. But it's a hypothetical that we can't help but associate. It's acting like the sun is a gas station in the universe, sucking up the sun to refuel the spacecraft. But the information we have so far doesn't directly prove that the UFO is real. Scientists say it could be a form of solar activity. But whatever the truth is, this phenomenon has inspired mankind to explore the universe, to unravel the mysteries of the universe. So, what do you think this UFO is?
Stop. You're going to want to hear this. There have been massive solar flare eruptions on the sun causing blackouts, and it's hitting the Earth. Quote-unquote solar storms are coming soon. And I'm guessing those solar storms they was talking about caused Sri Lanka to experience temporary blackouts. The whole entire island is now having a blackout, power outages. And people just thought we was crazy when we kept telling them that we have a massive hole in the sun that's facing towards the Earth that's going to cause blackouts. Side note, y'all can't tell me that the sun did not look like the Lord of the Rings eye. But we've been telling y'all for about a week that the sun's cosmic activity is now going to start affecting us. I know I can't be the only person that my Wi-Fi and all my electronics have been glitching out, going crazy. Make sure y'all have a plan for if a blackout did happen. And go get some of that cosmic energy too. We know what it do to our DNA. Y'all let me know what y'all think about them solar flares facing towards Earth causing blackouts in the comments. Like and follow.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you have a contingency plan? What's your contingency plan? I don't know how many of you remember 2011, but where I live, in 2011, we had, 14 tornadoes that came through the south and just demolished everything. TVA, which is Tennessee Valley Authority, which controls the water and electricity and all of these things. TVA was out. Most people were without power for at least a month, and at the time I was not prepared. The only thing that I had was a lot of extra water that had been stored. But now, and I'm not a prepper, I'm not trying to make anyone, panic, but I'm just saying, what would happen if one of these solar flares did hit, which is basically like an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse. It's going to block out anything electronic. It's going to shut it down. Well, there's EMP bags that you can get. I actually just ordered one a couple of days ago to put certain electronics in. I also ordered a second, I already have one, but a radio that you can crank, and it's got solar panels on it. Even the lights around my house, my floodlights, my motion lights, everything solar powered. But, I also have 3 months of food right now, which gives I think it's 1,800 calories a day per person. So for 3 people, you get 1,800 calories a day for 3 months. I've got that right now, and I'm still building on it. I also have 6 weeks worth of water, purified water. I've got iodine. I've got purification tablets. I've got the Life Water filter, which is something that is amazing, and I would highly suggest you get it. People take that camping, people take it everywhere, because you can either take a 2-liter bottle and screw it on and turn it upside down and let it filter out, and you get clean water. You know, fill it up in a creek, put it in, screw it on, and it filters out and you get the clean water. Or you can use it as a straw while you're walking and you see some water, you're thirsty, but you know that's, not filtered water, it's not clean by any means. Take the straw piece, put it in there, and suck on it like a straw and get your clean water. My thing is keeping my family safe, keeping my loved ones safe. Luckily, I live very close, there's a massive river, right across from me. So there's a lot of water resources, but what is your contingency plan? Do you have one? Do you think about this? Let me know in the comments. I'm sure there's, not only have I seen, but I know for a fact there's tons of people that are extra prepared. They've got, years worth of food, years worth of water, and that's a great thing to have, because if something like this were to happen, people are going to start unaliving off one another to try to get those resources because they weren't prepared. So need to be preparing, even if it's just a little bit will get you a few extra days or a few extra weeks. Let me know in the comments if you're preparing for this.
A solar flare erupted on the sun yesterday in what may have been the largest solar radio event ever recorded. This is an incredible story. Stephen, NASA and also social media flaring up with the storm and the story.
And look, it's on the right side, a little closer to me. You see that NASA Solar Dynamics Observatory caught
Capturing
it on video.
it.
Yeah, it was a burst of energy. So what it did, it sent radiation hurtling toward the Earth, which it's already arrived, and it actually caused, yeah, right? It caused some high frequency radio blackouts across the U.S. and South America. I mean, look at this. We had the highest impact in the Americas. Even some ham operators briefly said that there was no sound, nothing coming through the wires.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Communication can be interrupted when things like this happen, so that's no surprise.
Aircraft as well.
The impacts can actually come down to the planet Earth and give us some impact and some different. They say that if a solar storm was big enough, then it might even interrupt the internet. So depending on the strength of the storm and what the solar flares do, can often have the resulting impact, measurable impact. For what we know of this, a lot of it is science that's very difficult to understand. Solar flare.
This right here, what does this look like to you?
It's a thumb drive.
It's not a thumb drive. So if I open this up, inside of this is, you see the SD card in there?
Yeah.
So when this is plugged into a computer, the computer believes that it is a keyboard. So it's an HID device. So when I plug this into any computer, doesn't matter if it's Mac, Linux, Windows, it's gonna not think this is a flash drive. It's gonna start firing off keystrokes at superhuman speeds. So I have a payload configured on here that will automatically install malware on your computer and dump all the passwords out of your browser, save them to, it's called an FTP, installs the malware so that I can access your computer later, and then I unplug it from your computer, I walk away, and I'm done. But, if I leave one of these on the ground outside of your office, or I just leave one in the bathroom, you might think, oh, what's on that flash drive? And then before you have a chance to even pull it out, a payload got executed on your computer.
Holy shit. So
this right here, what is this?
So that's nothing new. That's pretty normal. It's old. It's I don't know how many people are aware of that. FTP is file transfer protocol. I I've stated before that I am a network engineer and network architect. So I design and build data centers, Fortune 500, 1,000 corporations and data centers and buildings. That when you need the big stuff to be designed, that's when I get called. This is nothing new, but just be careful. You can do anything with the thumb drive. Put an entire operating system. I have one sitting over here. Well, I have 3. You can do a lot of things with it. Nothing new. I just thought it was interesting because I haven't seen anybody post something about anything like this in a while. And I was thinking maybe someone out there doesn't know this. And, you might find a flash drive or thumb drive and want to plug it in. But the way you get around that, though, is you configure your USB ports. So there's going to be a thumb drive, flash drive. So you configure your USB ports to not actually autoplay, to not do anything when you plug it in. Recognize that something's plugged in, and then be allowed to look at it without anything being ran. But this is old. This is very old tech. We were doing this in 2008. It's nothing new.
There's 28-day moon cycles, and there's 13 per year. So when you think of your calendar and you have 12 months, where is the missing month? Because you have 13 moon cycles per year, so where is the missing month? It's something we don't think about. You have 13 28-day moon cycles, but you only have 12 months in a year. Where is the off month? And this is why when I say connecting to the moon energy, you can see that the same cycle happens every single time. So where is that month that we're missing? And then you start to say, well, what season are we actually in then? Because if we're always missing basically a month all the time, then that would mean our timeline is very incorrect, or our calendar is very incorrect as well. And as somebody just said, we switched to the Gregorian calendar and we messed up all our cycles. Yes, we did. And that's the thing. We don't even know what day or year we are in. This is where it gets crazy. Someone could say, well, today's 2023. According to who? Who told you we're in 2023? And then, what month are we actually in? And if you create this confusion, you can then control the people because they start to believe, well, I'm in 2023. Well, what happens if you were in 2023? Like 1023? Then what? You'd really start thinking things different. Because, if you start thinking about the calendar and now everything's thrown off, you'd start there and go, oh my gosh, wait a minute, this is what year we're in? Wait, what month are we in? And then we start going, oh, well, what season am I in? And then who created that up too? Who made up that number? That's the other part. You sit there and go, maybe, what happens if we're in like 5046? And then you sit there and you think you're still driving a car with 20 miles to the gallon in 5046.
So this is something I do agree with. 1 million, 1,000, 100,000, 1,000,000%. So you can go between the Julian and the Gregorian calendars. We do have 13 28-day months. There are 13 months in a year. March is the first day of the year. It's not January, and there are 13 months. It's 28-day cycles for the moon. I believe that, I know that man started messing with the cycles of the earth, and this whole thing that we have now where you spring forward, in spring you go forward an hour, in the fall you fall back an hour, spring forward, fall back. That's messing with nature. That's something that should never be done. That's something that is detrimental to us as a people, and we truly do not know what time we're in, regardless of what calendar you want to go by. You want to go by the new Julian one or the old Gregorian one. Either way, the Gregorian one was the truth, but then you had Constantine, who started to mix Christianity with paganism, and then you got Christmas, and then that's when they started saying, you know, Christ was born on December 25th, because December 25th is the winter solstice, and in order to appease the pagans and the Christians, he had to combine this. So he's like, okay, well, you know, pagans have always said that, you know, December 21st actually is the winter solstice. You know, we're celebrating the winter solstice, and then the new year after that. And then you had the Christians that also wanted to be recognized. So he said, okay, well, during the winter solstice, Christ was born. And they merged them together, which is not only blasphemy, it's heretical. You know, if you're a Christian, it's extremely heretical. But yeah, you shouldn't mess with time. You just shouldn't. Nature does not give a shit what is on your clock. Nature does not care what time you think it is. Nature acts upon nature. It never changes. It's always the same. 13 months in a year. March is the first. Think of the month names. You know, September, Set, 7, Octo, Deca. Think about it. December, Deca. Think about it. These are truths. So, yeah, you shouldn't mess with that.
Is if we go back in time, 1900s, 1910, 1920s, all of those times, hospitals at that time used to have linen sheets in the hospital, because if a person was suffering from wounds, or if they were suffering from inflammation or pain, when they went to go lay on these linen sheets, they would repair overnight within 24 hours, and they would send them out. Now they have polyester and plastics and all this other whatever it may be as the alternative, or what they're using now, and that keeps the people in this sick cycle, because now they're not repairing in those beds. So, you know, when it comes to sleeping and when it comes to keeping the static charge off the body, you want to opt for linen. Linen is the best, hands down, and we'll go through all the different ones and talk about it, but linen is the best, hands down. And I say this because also, when you look at, for example, babies, with babies, they usually wrap them in linen, and that's because their little legs, think about, their little legs are kicking all the time, and if they were in, for example, polyester or a different fabric, then when their little legs start kicking, then what will start to happen is they're going to gather up a static charge, and then that little baby is going to get fussy, because the baby is going to get irritable from the material. So a lot of baby materials, which are known as sensitive materials, are actually made out of linen. So when we look at all of this and we connect the dots, we can connect to the powers of linen. The buildings in which we just saw and how heavy they were, right? Tons and tons of stones. Well, here's a stone that probably weighs about 20 tons and can barely move from a truck, right? You're trying to move that, the truck's moving, everything's falling, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And especially, let's say these buildings were built in the 1800s or 1700s, when there were only about 1,000 people and none of this technology existed. Well, that's another good question. How on earth did all of those things get built, right? Or moved, or something like this, right? Or something like this. I think it goes to show that when we look into the past, things were very, very advanced, but we were told that we were supposedly, like I said, running around on horses and wagons and on. So we're going to go back to 1893 Chicago, and this is not the Chicago in which I know, right? The Chicago I know does not have statues like this and look anything like this. But this is what Chicago looked like before it was reset, right? The fires that we heard about in Chicago and all those things, they were removing all of this. Look at this detail. This is a completely different city in which we know of today. Because look at this. Look at the architecture. Look at the design. Think of how hard it would be to create all of this, right? We can barely make a little bean and wrap it in mirrored paper, let alone statues like this made out of copper, right? Look at this archway. Look at the detail here. This is in Chicago. This is old world history which is not taught about, right? They keep us in the dark. They don't teach us about our true potential and how there used to be a unified, advanced society which built like this all over the world. The buildings...
Sorry for yawning. It's late. I've been doing videos back to back to back to back to back today. But, yeah, he's right. He's absolutely right. So, the Egyptians were the greatest chroniclers of our ancient past. They literally wrote down everything that they did and how they did it. And one thing that they wrote down was how they made the pyramids. And they show you pictures of giant beings with normal-sized men. Excuse me, apologize. It's late. Gotta go to bed. I gotta work in the morning. I work a normal job. So they show you, it's in their writings, in the, not hieroglyphs, just normal paintings, writings. They show you giant beings and regular sized humans. But another thing is they use sound. Sound frequencies were used way back then, to be able to lift this and place it as accurate as they did. You cannot fit a sheet of paper between two of the stones on one of the pyramids. A sheet of paper can't get through there. Excuse me. That degree of difficulty doesn't even exist on a NASA shuttle. I know that for a fact because I've worked on them. You cannot fit, and I've heard someone else say a human hair. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I've heard. But I do know for a fact a sheet of paper cannot fit between those stones. So all of this documentation, the Library of Alexandria from Alexander the Great, in the Muslim world they called him Iskender because Alexander, so they called him Iskender, because Allah, that fire that was set, that was intentional, that was purposefully set, so the Vatican can go and get all of that. Was the greatest library to ever exist, and that fire was purposefully set so the Vatican can go and get all of that documentation and hoard it for themselves. And I'm doing a video tomorrow on a lot of things dealing with the Vatican. That's something that you're going to want to see. These are things that I've not only researched myself, I've been there, I've gone through these things, but there's a lot of info out there. So like I said, YouTube, the internet didn't exist, not in this form when I was there, so all I have are photos and my memories. But luckily, people have been researching the same things that I'm researching, and now we have the chance to see all of that. We have the chance to look at it, explore all of this. So that's going to be important. So look out for that one. That's coming up tomorrow.
You go back to Atlantean times. Atlantean times were connected into quartz. They were huge into quartz. Everything was built out of quartz. Their beds were built out of quartz. Homes were built out of quartz. So structuring water, there's some simple ways that people can structure water. And we can talk about that as well, too, because I feel like both those go hand in hand. Dr. Emoto had some work where he was talking to water. He wrote love on water. He wrote bad words on water. Yes. And he got two different results when he would freeze it. Basically, that was showing the crystalline structure. But what you...
So I don't know if you guys remember, sorry for the pause, but I just want to throw this in there. I don't know if you remember me talking about this. So I talked about rice. So I said you can take rice, and this experiment's been done by colleges, by scientists, by just everybody. But so take cooked rice, put it in a little airtight sealed container. Do 3 of them, right? One is your base. One you put away. You haven't done anything to. One you give your intent. So in your soul, you pull up the intent of something wretched that you despise, that you hate is a word I don't use much because hate is an extremely strong word, but I would say disdain. You can't stand it. It angers, upsets you. Take that intent and say those things towards that rice. Then bring up what fills you with love. Just pure, unconditional love, whether it's your child, your parent, your God, whatever it is. Say that to the other. And you will see the difference, and then you judge those 2 against that base, and that's your experiment. And you will see what will happen. So I'm just saying, this is not new. I did this so long ago, and so did many other people. I just don't know if it's... I haven't seen a lot of this online, per se. You know, I've seen bits and pieces here and there, but I haven't seen it, you know, out there to the masses like this. So that's why I wanted to interject right here, but I'm going to let it.
You just described is basically you're taking structured water, pouring it into your water, and then that water will take on the same consciousness of that structured water. And that's what it is, because water is alive, right? You can talk to it, you can get information from it. There's information that can be accessed through water. You know, that's why quartz crystal, right? When you hold a quartz crystal, it has so much information and so much memory to it because it's primarily water. You know, you go back to Atlantean times. Atlantean times were connected into quartz. They were huge into quartz. Everything was built out of quartz. Their beds were built out of quartz. Homes were built out of quartz. You know, all these things resonating at quartz, because not only did you have the piezoelectric effect, but you also have the water itself, right? So when we look at this, you know, there are a few different ways, very simple ways to just structure water. You know,
Piezoelectric. Piezoelectric is what he's saying. It's the same as a quartz crystal on a watch, on a quartz watch. So you have that quartz crystal at the 12 o'clock on the watch, and it causes a piezoelectric effect. He said piezo. I just want you to know that it's he's saying the right thing, but he's pronouncing it incorrectly. It's a piezoelectric current that goes with that watch from quartz.
what do you think about oil pulling for oral health? Oil pulling is phenomenal. You can use coconut oil and you can use a little bit of pearl, put that into the mouth and do oil pulling. Absolutely phenomenal for just pulling the toxins out of the mouth. Because remember, the teeth are meridian pathways to the body. So if there are toxins all loaded up in the teeth, then they're blocking the meridian pathways of the body to function. So oil pulling can actually be very beneficial. And then you don't need toxic toothpaste that's loaded with fluoride and citric acid and artificial flavors and colors that corrode your teeth. Pearl was the catalyst of changing my whole world on superfoods. I mean, it works on so many different aspects of the body, including just your energy, your focus, your brain, your digestion, you know, just your skin, your eyes, your hair, your nails. I mean, Pearl covers just about everything. And it was just remarkable when I started getting into the studies. I thought, this is just, people gotta know about Pearl powder. And then we started talking about it and it's gone crazy ever since. So I hope that it helps to elevate your health as well. 1930s, 1940s, Victor Schauberger created a bunch of pipes that basically can curve, and that was replicating what he saw in nature, right? So he saw that when you were to move something, if you were to create a curve, it would cause things to levitate as they floated through water. So for example, a salmon, right? The salmon doesn't go upstream. The salmon actually levitates. It causes vortexes. When the fins are going, it's actually causing vortexes so that it can levitate up the stream. Think of it like those straws we used to drink as a kid that would spin the water when you would drink it. Yeah, it was like in whatever structured the water, and you're like, oh, this water's real good. Well, it's really good because it's structuring the water the entire time. Back in the day, they would do that with the pipes, and they can basically structure it. Or at the end of, let's say, the water coming out, they would have spiral pipes, and it would go through that and structure the water. A lot of the old world technology and like all the different, you'll look up like these water spouts or where the water used to come up from inside the earth. They're all in a vortex, right? Like they're all in lines that look like a vortex drawn into the earth, and the water would come up through that and spin right at the same time. So you'd have a vortex going up and a vortex of the water. And then if you grow plants in that area, you get even more abundance of food because it's a vortex of energy. If we go against nature, it will destroy us. Fasting is actually very beneficial to the body, and fasting can help cleanse everything through. And it also allows the body to begin to regenerate, because when the body is not breaking down food, it has time to regenerate and heal. Think about this. Every single time you go to the grocery store, there is always food. Why? Because they are trying to keep your stomach full. Because when your stomach is full, you will not revolt. Even when 2020 and 2021 food shortages were happening, there was still enough food there because they didn't want a revolution, number one. Number two, when you're allowing your body to take a break from food, your cells can begin to regenerate. Your mind will be more clear. Your skin will be more clear. Your organs will be able to go through the detox pathways that they're supposed to be going through. Now, during fasting, you can also incorporate, if you like, an enema as well during about that same time, because you're cleansing and getting that liver turned back on. And you don't have to do things for crazy amounts of time. You can do intermittent fasting, which is just about, 12 hours or 20 hours. Fasting, I lost my sense of smell and taste. What do you talk about for that one? Shilajit and 6-mix is actually phenomenal for loss of smell, loss of taste. And that is a simple symptom of radiation poisoning caused by too much of the cell phone or too much Wi-Fi and all that stuff that's in their house. So what happens is they start to lose their sense of smell and lose their sense of taste, which is a defense mechanism if you think about it. This is your area in which you're going to taste something and determine if something is wrong. Also, there are receptors in here to pick up on your terrain. Been using dragon's blood on my gums for about 2 months, and they're no longer bleeding, and I don't need dental floss. Thank you, Matt. Debbie, that's amazing to hear. That's the thing, like, we're just missing the nutrients. And dragon's blood, it was really cool. They showed a lot of studies where they talked about people who were having gum issues. The dragon's blood would help the gums begin to regenerate, almost like stem cells, which, is another hot topic. But I'm happy to hear, Debbie, that can actually work. The dragon's blood is working for your gums, and they're no longer bleeding. The problem with having a health issue is that you go to the professional, you ask them a question, and then you just keep going in the same circle. Nothing ever gets addressed, and they don't address the root cause.
So he's absolutely right about this. Everything that we need to heal ourselves and cure ourselves is in nature. Nature is a double-edged sword. So you've got one part of the plant that will poison you, and the other part of the plant will heal you from that poison. It's always a double-edged sword. And it's beautiful that he's putting this out there. And I want to make you all aware of the same thing. It's absolutely beautiful. I love that he's putting that out there. I take, however you pronounce it, Shilajit, or spelled Shilajit, or Shilajit. I take that. I take multiple things daily. Sea moss. Sea moss has 98% of the nutrients the body needs on a daily basis, all in sea moss. So I take a tablespoon, teaspoon, I can't remember. I take one of those daily of sea moss. I take Shilajit. I take all of these natural things. My green. I take a lot of natural stuff. And I don't get sick. My immune system is strong. My family, 2 members of my immediate family have had COVID 3 times, and I took care of them. For both girls, I took care of them the entire time, and I never caught it. I've never had it. They've had it, so. But I've been slowly bringing them over to my side to, strengthen your immune system, cure yourself with this. You don't need medicine. You don't need these things. And I've said this in another video, but I also had a terminal illness at one time, which there's no cure for. They said it was genetic. It was supposed to be caught as a child. Wasn't caught, so you don't live past 35 if it starts to come out as an adult. And so after spending 7 years going Cancer Institute's the best gastroenterologist in the country, they were just treating my symptoms, and well, not me, my mother figured out how to heal me and cure me. And it took a bit, but we got it done, and I'm here. And not only am I here, my immune system, my body is healthier than most people's out there. I don't get sick. I was never a sickly person, and now with all of this stuff that I take, I never get sick. You know, I may sneeze from time to time. One thing that I never do is cough. I never cough. So if I cough, something's wrong. I literally do not cough. I've coughed a few times in my entire life. And I mean from an illness, not because I ate something hot or spicy, nasty. I mean from illness or a cold. You know, cold is an acronym, chronic obstructive lung disease. So, you know, don't let these people fool you. Natural things cure you. There's nothing better because it's more bioavailable for your body. Your body metabolizes it faster because of the bioavailability. Just understand that. Don't go to the pharmacy. Don't get medicine. That's the worst thing.
You go to the eye doctor, they give you glasses, you put them over your eyes, you go back to the eye doctor again, the doctor says, well, your prescription's a little worse, we should give you thicker ones. So you go back and they give you thicker ones, and then you have now thicker glasses, and you keep coming back till your eyes and your glasses are like this thick, you know, they're like so thick like this, that you can't even see anything, because these things have completely blocked the UV spectrum and every spectrum you need to see to heal. And you're not using them anymore, because you got glasses to do the work for you. If you don't use it, you lose it. And if you don't feed it, it's going to fall apart. So how does it make sense to keep going back to the same person who's telling you to keep putting these thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker glasses on, and then your eyes are going to get better? It doesn't make any sense. But if you started training them, started doing eye exercises, start putting some castor oil and some pearl all over your eyes, and you start feeding these beautiful eyes that are here and give them some structured water, they begin to heal and you can see again. And it's remarkable because we can reverse everything. We are self-regenerating beings.
So if I told you that you could see without eyes, would you believe me? I've talked about this in one of my other videos. If I told you that if you were born blind or you became blind, that you could see, not only could you see, you could see better with no eyes than a person that has sight. Would you believe me? Your sensors, receptors, your eyes, all of these things are just translators. You know, or they're sensors, and your brain is the translator. So your eyes go to your optic nerve that go to your brain. You know, your ears do the same thing, tongue, same thing. Tongue's the fastest healing organ in the body. But yeah, there's a young black male. Well, this is a few years ago, like 5 or 6 years ago. He's blind. He figured out a way to use echolocation, just like a dolphin, just like a bat. It clicks. And so that click bounces off, that sound bounces off things, and then his brain maps out what it is. So he's developed it to a point to where when he clicks, when it bounces back off of something, it tells him not only what's there, but it tells him exactly what it is. And it also tells him color. Color. Think about that. So, I think it was, I don't know if it was Nat Geo or what, but they wanted to do a test with him. So they put him in a garage. They had these little stands with objects on them just sporadically placed throughout the garage. One was like a blue tennis ball or something. So they've got a cameraman there with the camera, night vision, and they tell him to go. So he walks over to the first thing and tells him, this is a basketball, it's orange, Spalding. Goes to the next one, he goes, this is a tennis ball, it's by Spalding. Thought you got me, but it's a blue tennis ball, not your typical green one. And they were just shocked, So he could also see color. Not only that, he could see inside the parts of the light spectrum that we can't. So think about this. Light spectrum, let's see, right here, okay. Light spectrum is this wide, right? Our human eyes let us see about this much of that spectrum. So you have all of this that we can't see with our eyes. We need electronic equipment to see that. This kid can see it naturally. Not all of it. I'm not saying he can see all of it, but he can see not only more than what we can see, he can see more than the electronics that we use to boost what we can see. He can see all of that naturally with no eyes. Because your sensors are stupid. Your senses are stupid. Your nose is stupid. Your brain is stupid a lot of times. Well, not your brain, your eyes. Your eyes will make stuff up. You see a bunch of trees and then you see something else and then a bunch of trees, and your brain will just bunch it up as a bunch of trees. And that's why 100 people can see the same thing and have 100 different opinions on what they've seen. I'm just trying to tell you how amazing our world is and how amazing we are and how much we can do when you pull out of this matrix. Get out of it. Stop listening to the masses. Stop listening to what they're telling you, that you can't do this, that's impossible. Stop listening to doubt. Take a chance on yourself. We were built purposefully. We can do these things. People are doing them. People have been doing them for centuries, for millennia. It's been done. Don't think you cannot do this. You're more special than you know. People are extremely special. But there's, like I always say, there's that 1% that's trying to hold us down and tell us, no, you're dumb, you can't do this, you don't even understand this because you don't know this or that. Well, it's because you screwed up the education system and, taught us everything about nothing, so that's what we know. So it's up to us now to go out here and do our research and find out the truth and come together as a community to bring this to one another. Everybody's not right and everybody's not wrong. We've got to test this out, trial and error, figure out what works, figure out what's true, what's not. But as a community, we do this together.
Yeah, the only hardcore thing is that there is an extremely classified document dealing with religion, and it's about that thick. Period. But why would there be any classified material dealing with religion?
I want to go back to the religion thing. I want you to say it.
It's so far out.
All right, your objection has been noted.
Okay.
What does it say?
That we're containers. That's how supposedly the aliens look at us. That we are nothing but containers.
Containers of?
Containers. Maybe containers of souls. You can come up with whatever theory you want, but we're containers, and that's how we're mentioned in the documents. that religion was specifically created so we have some rules and regulations for the sole purpose of not damaging the containers.
So I don't know if you know who that is. That's Bob Lazar. That's Bob Lazar in I think the late '80s or early '90s. I want to say. So Bob Lazar is the guy that was working for S4, which was the Area 51, and so but S4 was a different area, and a lot of you younger people might know him because he recently went on to Joe Rogan. Now, he was a physicist in his 20s and thought it was amazing that he would be getting to work on this super secret stuff. He didn't know what it was about. And like a dumb 20-year-old, he's like, hey, every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, they're doing these test flights with these craft that we've never seen before. So he's bringing friends out there. They've got, the big VHS cameras that, go like this, and then news crews start coming out there, and then they arrest him. He gets fired, and they had already had, having a clearance like that back then. You know, I've had top secret clearance, but not the kind he's had. His is, really high for what he was working on. So his home, everything was bugged, so they knew everything that was going on, every phone call that was coming in and out of his house, where he was at all times, all of that. But it did nothing but bring him shame and pain. And for almost 30 years, he's laid low because people have been trying to get his story. And he finally went on to Joe Rogan. And on Joe Rogan's show, talked about it, and you could tell that he didn't really want to get into it, but he wanted to clear some stuff up. Some things changed, especially like the guy that he worked with that was never mentioned back in the late 80s, early 90s. Barry, which is his name, I can't remember if he said the last name or not, but his name was Barry. But Bob Lazar did all of this, and Bob Lazar is, very intelligent, but this ruined his life. Back then there was no such thing as clout chasing. This ruined him. They tried to discredit him, tried to say that he never worked there. They destroyed his actual education file, saying he never went to these schools, he didn't have this degree, he never worked here or there. So, the things that can happen when you do something like that, when you come out like this, there were no protocols back then for whistleblowers, and even now there's no protocols for whistleblowers, because all of the protocols for whistleblowers go back to the government. So there's nothing you can do about it. That's why you had people like I can't remember his name, the white-haired guy that people went to WikiLeaks. That guy. He was providing that kind of security. So I'm just saying, do your research, look into this stuff. There's so much out there. But I will definitely see you guys tomorrow. Remember, do me that favor, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let's get this awareness out there to everyone. And look, we're a community. We have to come together. If all of us have little bits and pieces and we come together with these bits and pieces, we can make sense out of it. We have the data, we have the technology now. We have so much more than what we had when I originally started doing this, that it would be ignorant and ill-minded of us to not come together to do this. So this is all good stuff. Let's come together. Let's do it. I'll see you guys on the next one.